I'll talk first about what happens in the Danzig area, because it's a part of the Polish quarter. It's the most northern part. There are no divisions there. It's lightly defended, much more lightly defended than the other parts because it's such a small area. But there's a lot of initial resistance against the German invasion in these northern parts, especially the Hell Peninsula and Westerplatte. But there's also things inside the Danzig Free State as well. So I guess that's what I'll be talking about first. So Danzig is strategically important. That's the area where a lot of international politics between Germany and Poland is centered at, because Germany wants Danzig and the Polish corridor, and Danzig Free State is what the crisis is mostly about. Although it's about the entirety of Poland, Germany tells Poland that it's just about Danzig and about the Polish corridor. So Danzig Free State is an independent state, but it's above 90% ethnically German. It's by far pro-Nazi in its politics as well. So it would become annexed by Germany on September 1st, but I'll tell you exactly how that happened. So the defending parts in this area, most northern tip of the Polish corridor, were the land coastal defense, which had headquarters in Gdynia, and the sea coastal defense, which is centered at the Hell Peninsula. There's also a small garrison force at Westerplatte, and really they're small forces. The land coastal defense, which is technically actually a part of the Navy, although it's really in a land force. The land coastal defense had around 12,000 men-ish by the time of the invasion, although the numbers kept adding up and increasing ever since March, when the mobilization occurred. And it was only given to naval rifle regiments because it wasn't seen as a strategically super important area, but that's like 2/3 of a division. So it has a substantial force. It's not nothing. Two regiments, you can do a lot with 2 regiments. And it's centered at Gdynia. Again, since March, it would gain a lot, and before hostilities there were only a few battalions, but after the hostilities really began to muster up in August, the Polish HQ gave 2 regiments, 2 naval rifle regiments for this defense force. And the headquarters of the entire Polish Navy was at Gdynia, and it was at Gdynia before August 31st, but obviously it's September 1st when the invasion occurred. So there's so because the headquarters of the Polish Navy moved from Gdynia to, I believe, the Hell Peninsula, there's an entire garrison force at Gdynia which would help and support the land coastal defense force in its defense of Gdynia. And the land coastal defense force was mostly centered around Gdynia. The sea coastal defense force was primarily in the Hell Peninsula. So It's another small group, roughly like 10,000 men in total, and it had the objective of keeping the Hel Peninsula. So, it had a small force, a single regiment of infantry. Again, it's technically part of the Navy. It's under the naval branch of the Polish Armed Forces. But it had artillery. It had an artillery battalion, anti-aircraft battalion, and some infantry. So it numbered like several thousand. So not too big, and that's where the headquarters of the Polish Navy would be after August 31st, when the headquarters changed. So from Gdynia to Hel is where the naval headquarters changed, and that's also strategically pretty important, because if you look at the geography of the Hel Peninsula, it's very thin. It's very thin, very narrow, but it's also very long. And really, the only way you can attack it without suffering immense casualties is by having absolute control over the sea around it, so that beach landings could occur at different parts of the garrison. So it was expected for both of these forces, the land coastal defense force and the sea coastal defense force, to be annihilated pretty early on. So they didn't have the best equipment, best units, although, as I said, the Polish headquarters did allocate them a few regiments, 2 regiments in Gdynia and 1 regiment in Hel. But all of these formations were part of the fleet command of the Polish Navy. So, and also there's a company-sized unit in Westerplatte Peninsula, not the Hel Peninsula. It's a small peninsula inside like Danzig, pretty much, and is commanded by Major Sucharski, and that's also part of the Navy. It's a much smaller force than the land coastal defense force, sea coastal defense force, as I said before, and yet somehow Westerplatte would survive longer than Gdynia, and a really long time at that, until September 7th. Whenever I think about the Battle of Westerplatte, I'm reminded of this movie. There's this really good movie that's in Polish, but you can get English subtitles, called 1939 Battle of Westerplatte, and I've watched it and I liked it. It's a pretty high quality film, I think. Anyway, the Polish Navy, besides all of these infantry and land forces that are just Navy by name, although, like, you know, they're land forces that are part of the Navy, is what it is. But there's actual naval units, right? There's ships, submarines, destroyers. Poland would not have a huge navy regarding, it has a tiny coastline, you can see, but it would have a submarine and destroyer force, although it would have no heavy ships like cruisers or battleships or anything like that. So the 4 destroyers, Witcher, Burusa, Błyskawica, I think, and Grom. These 4 destroyers were part of the Polish Navy, and then 5 submarines, the Wilk, Zbik, Rys, Zep, and Orzel, were the 5 submarines in the Polish Navy. And actually 4 of these, the 4 destroyers, 3 of the 4, so the Burusa, Błyskawica, and Grom, everything except for the Witcher, the Victor, were all sent to England as part of the Peking Plan, which began on August 26, 1939, a few days before. So they'd be on their way to Scotland at this point, after some negotiations that happened on that part. So really, you only have 1 destroyer and 5 submarines to defend this entire area. The primary German force attacking this area was the 207th Infantry Division, which again is a weak infantry division, but it's definitely stronger than the weak, measly Polish defenses the Navy has in these areas. And Friedrich Georg Eberhard is the commander of this 207th Division. It's a reserve, kind of. It's technically under Border Guard Command 1, but it's larger than the rest of Border Guard Command 1. It's in the far north, and that's where it actually comes into. And the other parts of Border Guard Command 1, the actual Border Guard parts of it, would also play some part. They just kind of like hold the defensive line to make sure that there's no like weird moves that the Polish Navy would pull on the Germans in this area. And also, Germany would have 1 capital ship in the fight, the SMS Schleswig-Holstein, named after the northern province. So it's a heavy cruiser. So I mean, okay, it's sometimes called it is a battleship. It's a battleship. It's a pre-dreadnought battleship of the Deutschland class, but it's much weaker than the dreadnoughts, of course. And this, I'll tell you a little bit about it. It was decommissioned back in 1917, but it was recommissioned. The Treaty of Versailles happened, and they took away most of the German Navy, but they said, hey, here's some really bad ships that you can have. And the Germans took it. They kept the Schleswig-Holstein, and at this point, because of that allowance, that the Germans would have the Schleswig-Holstein to attack Westerplatte and annihilate a lot of, annihilate single-handedly, but it would be the main ship in the German Navy in this area, the eastern side of the Navy. Well, the majority would be in the west. And the North Sea and on the ports, and also out in the Atlantic, just everywhere. So the Schleswig-Holstein, as well as a bunch of other small minor ships, would also be a part of the German Navy that would attack the Poles at 4:45 a.m. this time. So, alright. The German invasion of Poland began on September 1st, 1939 at 4:45 a.m., right? And most people hear that Westerplatte was the first place where all of this happened. And that is somewhat true. They happened basically at the same time, but Westerplatte just happened a few minutes earlier. 4:41, 4:42, 4:44, whatever. They happened a few minutes before 4:45 technically, even though the war would be declared at 4:45. And that's when the Schleswig-Holstein would start bombarding the Polish troops in Westerplatte. Also, Luftwaffe Stuka bombardments, again Luftwaffe, would happen in this area. They know that the Polish in this area has a lot of good anti-aircraft, so they make sure to have their bombers guided by fighters so that they wouldn't be completely demolished. They would bombard places like Chu, towns south of Danzig, and also some of the Polish positions in this area, in addition to, of course, Pomorze front in general. So, once the Schleswig-Holstein bombarded Westerplatte, the garrison was highly alerted. They were already on highest alert, but Sucharski's Westerplatte garrison would try to actually defend themselves, and they defended themselves pretty well. So not only were they bombarded by the Navy, but there was also landing attempts that happened on the beaches of Westerplatte that really didn't work. And on the first day, Westerplatte just lived. There was nothing to stop it. So in Danzig itself, which Westerplatte is a small peninsula in that free state, Danzig was led by its leader Albert Forster, and he's a member of the Nazi Party. They're the ones who were in charge of the Danzig Free State. And the Danzig Free State opted to actually join Germany pretty early on. So the only real defense, Polish defense that happened in the Free City of Danzig was in the post office, the Danzig post office, in which there was a huge fight over. Although after the first parts of the day, the Germans would be able to overcome it. Although that they took a huge price, because they tried and tried. They couldn't open the doors to it. It was barricaded very well by the very tiny defense in the surrounded building, and they finally had to use cannons and stuff to artillery guns to just blow open the doors. And of course, after they blew open the doors, the Germans were able to march in. This is SS Heimwehr, SS Regiment Heimwehr, I believe, is the one that's attacking the Polish post office in Danzig. And actually, Albert Forster was there to see this happen. But Albert Forster was also in a different place on September 1st. He was at his desk signing an important sheet of paper. So it's a document that outlined the Danzig annexation into Germany, and they would have a few articles. Basically, I'm not going to talk about all of the details about what each of the articles mean. In summary, as a few things: one, Danzig should be a part of Germany. Two, they be in complete jurisdiction under German law that's already been in there. And three, that the Danzig constitution was no longer in effect. So after he signed that, Hitler would match Forster's treaty and sign his own paper that would declare that he accepted the Danzig annexation into the German Reich. So immediately, just a few hours into the war, the true cause of the conflict, or at least what the Germans sometimes claimed was the cause of conflict, the Italians definitely, Count Ciano kind of pretended like he believed it was about Danzig, calling it the Danzig crisis. It's over already. First few hours, and Danzig already is a part of Germany. There's annex, and the only small resistance was in the post office. If there's any other parts that I'm thinking of, the garrison at Gdynia was also overrun in the day, and a tiny attempt to advance in the Hell Peninsula was attempted, but it made no real progress. The Germans were unable to really get there to the Hell Peninsula, but they took everything around it, so completely surrounded all of these guys. Would be in this Danzig area of the front.